Hello, 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 hello. With the end of that intro, it's very quiet. So I always feel like I can't come in shouting my way into the Formula One World Championship round 12 at Belgium. Belgium at Spa-Francorchamps. A fucking classic track. Oh, I've got this up still. It's always something I forget to do, Fabio. Always something. Yeah. Spot the mistake. I play that at the beginning of every video. Yeah. So Spa-Francorchamps. It's a classic circuit, is it not? We've been here since what, 84, 86, 84?
1884, I think, maybe.
No, I don't think it's that old. But
Oh,
it's a real classic one. The only thing which is bothering me is that I've heard people referring to as the University of F1, which bothers
What?
me because
okay.
originally, Assen was deemed the University of Motorcycle, and then they just tried to do that with Assen, with Spa. So yeah, it's kind of.
I thought Monza was the University of Formula One.
Well, I would say it's more Silverstone and Monza than.
Oh, here I am wrong again.
Okay.
Right. So first hosted a non-championship Grand Prix in 1924. And then its maiden championship in 1950. So that would have been the first year, I think, of the modern era. Race run by Juan Manuel Fangio, Alfa Romeo, ahead of his teammates. Who was his teammate? Anybody?
I don't know. Might be who? Ascari, Farina.
Yeah, Farina. Okay,
Farina, okay, yeah.
Absolutely. And then 85 was the current modern era. 85, 84, 86. Somewhere in the middle. But there you go.
A much
okay.
changed track, though, it must be said.
I beg your pardon?
Was it a much changed track, Spa, from its original days?
Oh yes, yeah. I played it on the old Grand Prix circuit from 1950 or something like that, and it was terrifying, absolutely terrifying in the game. So I hate to think what it was like in real life. Oh my goodness! So there you go.
The old bus stop, which was a real bus stop, if you remember. In previous years, it was a proper bus stop.
Yeah. I mean, the cars were almost buses, so there you go. Compared to the modern F1 cars, of course. But there we are. There we go. Please like and subscribe. Okay. I think we're just going to move on because I think we're going to stick to an hour if at all possible. I say that every week, and we never do. But anyway, we'll give it a go. So we were at Spa. It was a sprint race. First time we've had a sprint race there. The sprint race was not very interesting, actually. Max Verstappen won. Max Verstappen got pole. He was almost out. George Russell almost out twice. Eventually finishing way down, I think. Was he 18th or something? Oh, my God, it was horrible. And then it was just a standard sprint race. I don't know why they had a sprint race on a circuit like this. I think they did 3 laps. Was it sprint race distance? 3 laps? Because it's such a long circuit. Yeah, 15.
It was 11 laps.
You are right, 15. And 11 in the end because the first 4 were waved off because of what we thought was going to be the same thing that happened last year, was it?
Yeah.
It was last year when... who got a fastest lap last year? Who was that?
It was safety car.
No. It was Nikita Mazepin.
Nikita Mazepin. Oh, yes. Got a fastest lap at Spa. Yeah, no, he was a hell of a racer. Yeah, hell of a racer. Yeah. He did actually bribe quite a few people to get that, but nonetheless, mainly God, I think. Anyway.
Formula One.
Well, yeah. You say that. There've been quite a few over the years.
But it was 2 years ago. It wasn't last year.
Was it 2 years ago?
I think so.
Or was it last year? No, it must have been 2 years ago because it was Haas.
Yeah.
Was it Haas that had the Russian thing and they invaded? Yeah.
Yes.
So must be 2. Yeah. You're absolutely right. Okay. Anyway, so that was the sprint race. Max Verstappen pole to victory. He came home, had a breeze, and what can you say? That's what happened. There you go. He had a 5-place grid penalty, was it? Something like that for the gearbox on
5-place penalty, yes.
on Sunday. Yep.
Yes.
And so the
Yeah.
pole went to an amazing lap, and it was an amazing lap by Leclerc. Pastry
Hmm.
pastry. I mean the pastry pastry. Beg your pardon.
I'm sorry. Are you breaking up just for me, or
Oh no,
is
I
No,
don't think I don't
okay?
normally break up.
you broke
Yeah.
up a wee
Well,
bit for me as well there.
yeah.
Okay,
You.
okay. Well, good evening, Bub. Thank you very much for being here. We appreciate that. I was just to recap, Max Verstappen won the sprint race. Okay, nothing
Yeah.
else happened. On to the main race. Max Verstappen got pole position and had a 5 Grid penalty for the gearbox. A great pole
Hmm.
by Leclerc. Second place, he was highly commended for his second place by Christian Horner, who said, "I'm not going to have to smack the shit out of you now because you got higher than 5th place." So we can
Uh,
tell where the wind blows on that team, can't we?
we'll
Uh,
discuss this further, I think.
yes, I am paraphrasing here a little bit, Lucky, but there you go. And then third place was 44. I'm struggling with words again today. I don't know why. Lewis Hamilton. Lewis Hamilton, then Carlos Sainz, an amazing Piastri.
Hmm.
I think then maybe George, and then maybe Norris. The race was the McLaren. One of the McLarens was set up for a wet race, and so they had piled on the downforce. That was Norris, so he was always going to struggle, and in fact, that's what it turned out to be. But
Hmm.
before his struggles, we had the first corner to get through. And of course, Spa, first corner. Leclerc, a great getaway. Perez blocking Hamilton into second place. Carlos Sainz challenging Lewis Hamilton and coming together with Piastri, who unfortunately damaged his wing and then rapidly dropped back. Carlos Sainz suffered damage, which was to be terminal in the end, I believe. And then that left the way clear for Max to come through down the first straight, towing everybody in sight, getting up to 4th place before Blanchement. I'm going to use the official French pronunciations here.
Yes.
Blanchement. And that was basically.
Belgian. Should not be Belgian pronunciations.
I beg your pardon?
Should not be Belgian pronunciations.
Well, I think they speak French in Belgium.
Yes, but they can have a Belgian accent, surely.
No, I can't do a Belgian accent. Funnily enough, it's one of the few accents I can't do.
You can't argue with that.
Poirot. Hercule Poirot. It was Belgian, so think about it.
No, I don't know. I mean, funnily enough, my family originally come from Belgium, but then we have been out of Belgium for like 800, 900 years. So,
Well, you have an excuse in that case.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Anyway, moving on with the Formula One show. Go on.
Yeah.
If you've got something to say, Fabio, go on. Stick the knife in.
No, it's okay. I was just saying, 800 years ago, this is where all began to go to shit. Yeah, in Belgium,
Yes,
of course.
absolutely. Yeah. And well, we had to get out.
Yeah.
Obviously. Yeah, we knew what we were doing. Anyway, look, Perez got off to a great start, and Hamilton and Leclerc battled for a little while, which let Perez get away somewhat and let Verstappen catch up. So by lap 5, Perez had at least a 2.5 second lap gap to Leclerc. Then Alonso, Sainz dropping back. Tsunoda, Albon, Stroll did very well, getting past Russell in 10th. Russell really suffering, getting balked basically by Piastri as he came through the pack. And it wouldn't take him long to get back up again. By lap 6, then it was really noticeable what the damage was on the Sainz's Ferrari, and he was no longer destined to be in the race. wasn't destined to be in the race for much longer, as he was just a chicane, basically. Norris pitted, trying to change some settings on his car to at least give him some chance, as it was now a completely dry race. By Max Verstappen coming through on Hamilton easily enough, just so much faster. Max was so much faster than everybody else on the day. Obviously, red tyres as well, the softest tyres available. And that was that. And then the following lap, I think lap 9, Verstappen overtook Leclerc around the outside into, I think you pronounce it Rochemont, something like that. Is that right? That's the Belgian pronunciation.
Oh yeah.
Just too fat with the chocolates, obviously.
Yes.
Anyway, there you go. And that put him 3 seconds roughly behind Perez. And of course, Perez being told to save the tyres and Max being told to save the tyres, Max caught him within 2 laps. I don't think he was saving the tyres somewhat. And hey, Bob. So that was it. So Max called up Perez, and it was an easy overtake. Of course, he's a much better driver than Perez, obviously, as this season has demonstrated. And he was away to win the race by, I don't know, he had 27 seconds or something like that, maybe at the end of the race. 20 seconds, let's say roughly 20 seconds.
Yeah, 20 seconds.
22 seconds.
Yeah, he basically just got in Perez's toe, out-dragged him down the straight, and that was that. There was only one thing. They tried to warn Max to keep his tyres in check, and this was what was interesting. I put it in the... oh, hang on a second. Here we go. We got real information coming in. Max Verstappen from being alongside over 1 second ahead. Hamilton 53 seconds. Leclerc 40 seconds. Perez 24 seconds. I thought it was somewhere around there. So yeah, great. And yeah, so they were saying to Max, look, preserve your tyres. And of course, Max wanted to know whether both cars were told to do the same. So, despite the fact he'd caught Perez and overtaken him within a handful of laps, he was still worried whether Perez was being given different instructions. Interesting. I thought interesting. We may talk about that a little later. We will also talk about the radio calls a little later, Bub, between Max and his erstwhile race engineer, who is the chief engineer for the team, which his name is...
Giampiero Lambiase.
See, there's no point in me. There was just no point in me even trying to pronounce that. I was amazed how fast Max got his opponents out of the DRS tag-along. Yeah, I mean, what can you say? That car is a rocket ship. And I'm quoting one of the F1 drivers, Piastri, said, we did not bad. He came second in the sprint, Piastri. And he said, not bad for the first non-rocket ship. So, there you go. Anyway, I don't think there was an awful lot happened after that, really.
No, the interesting thing, we know exactly how slower Perez is compared to Verstappen, and Perez is half a second per lap slower than Verstappen.
Half a second. That's a ridiculous amount.
Yeah.
Oh my God! I mean, you normally get sacked for that kind of pace difference between your teammates. Yeah. So
the interesting thing about it is he was making up all that time on one sector.
Yeah,
the middle sector. Anyway, middle sector, I think, was the sector that he was making up the time. The rest of the time, he was on a par with the other guys as for time. But that one sector, he was blasting them all away.
Yeah, I think he had a relatively high downforce compared to the other non-rocket ship cars. And Perez, as I said, just cannot do anything like to even get close to the kind of levels of downforce and the way Max drives the car. I mean, it's pretty much that simple. Anyway, look, the cars came home. Verstappen won the race. I don't know. I don't mean to spoiler everybody.
Yeah.
Verstappen won the race. Perez in second place. Leclerc, fantastic third. Great to see Ferrari up there. He drove a fantastic race considering the struggles that he had. Hamilton fourth place, 18 seconds behind Leclerc. Just well behind. Alonso. Oh, Hamilton also complaining of bouncing. Alonso in fifth place, great results. George Russell up to sixth, like cleaned his way through the thing. Really great race for George Russell there. Norris 10th, hanging on for dear life. His fingernails did really good job. Then Ocon, Stroll, Sonoda, and then a load of would-be Formula One drivers. Gasly, fucking Bottas, and just beat his teammate Jean. Okay, so there we go. That is my
Yeah.
race recap.
Mhm.
Highly entertaining and accurate as it was. I'm going to pass you over to now to the second host here, which is Farina Fabio the Great. Okay,
Wow,
there
I
we go.
wish. I wish. So yeah, I mean, sprint race, nothing to see there, really. I mean, apart from the weather, that was the only thing which made the sprint race interesting, but nothing really good to see there. The race was, I mean, so the race was nice. If you take away the Red Bull, I mean, the normal people race was quite nice. The fact that Ferrari got third, I don't think is something that in Ferrari got to cheer a lot about. I think it was mostly because of the track. It's a very front limited track, so that would suit this Ferrari. I mean, nicely. What else? The accident at the first corner in the race. I think it's kind of weird. I think it was mostly a race accident. Uh, I would say that it might have been more Sainz's fault than Piastri's fault, because he actually got into the corner as if there was nobody there. We got to say he had Lewis on the left, so he had not too much space. The reason why I'm actually pointing the finger to Piastri mostly is not because he was the one which was most at fault, but he was the one which had the clearest vision of what was happening, and he could have avoided the old kerfuffle, which eventually brought him out of the race because of a broken uh, front suspension,
Very true.
and
Very true.
ruined the race for Sainz.
Very true.
So yeah,
I would just
yeah,
point out that there was a little bit of a gap between Hamilton and Sainz. Sainz did
yes,
not. So there was still some room. That implies to me that Sainz did know he was there and was trying to cut him off, in which case
yeah.
that's a silly thing to do, or he didn't know he was there and he was just taking his line to get the best exit, which is the
Yeah,
most
yeah.
likely, I feel.
I don't think he realized that Piastri was actually there. I think I
I
think it was more focused on Lewis
Yeah,
on his left.
great. So
Also
as a
because
result,
Piastri was.
yeah, as a result of that, I really think Piastri should have been given a penalty.
Yeah, yeah. Because not because I think it was the one most at fault, but because it was the only one which could have avoided the whole thing. He saw what was going on in front of him. So
Yeah,
anyway. Um, the track was amazing as always. I really love Spa. There was the thriller of a certain moment of a little dash of rain, and I really wish there was a little bit more of that. But anyway, what else? Some mentions. Yeah, the McLaren. They gambled on a wet race with really high downforce, and it didn't pay up. Norris was they overtook Norris, without DRS. He was really, really, really slow. Uh, by the way, Ricciardo passed Norris on the outside. I think that was the pinnacle of his race, because after that, I think that the AlphaTauri is really a shitty car. I mean, everybody's pointing fingers at the As, the Alpha, whatever, the Alpine. But I think that the AlphaTauri as a car is really bad. So I mean, I don't know if they use that as a test bed for something for Red Bull, but something doesn't really work with that car.
Well,
So
let me just say
Ricciardo,
this.
yeah,
What's the guy's name? Is it Frank Tost? What's his name? France.
Tots, yeah, Tots, yeah.
What's his name? The
I can't, yeah, I
the
can't remember the
race
name of the
the
guy.
manager. Oh,
Yeah,
come on. We must know.
is
He's the ugly. Oh no, I'm thinking of the Haas.
no, you're thinking about Steiner.
Yes, I
Is
am. Yeah.
yeah,
No, I was going to say he's no. I can't even remember the guy. I'm trying to think. He's not
yeah.
Vassar. He's no Vassar. That's what
No,
I'm
it's not
trying to say.
Vasseur. No, fuck no, it's not Vasseur. Yeah, yeah,
Anyway, carry on.
no. Yeah, I mean that was pretty much it. Leclerc made a really honest race. Again, I think he had a kind of an advantage, on that track with that car. They haven't solved the problems. I think it was just a combination of the right track at the right time. Also, temperatures, they were a little bit lower, so I think they helped maintaining the tires a little bit more than they used to. What else? I mean, good race from Lewis. A kind of disappointing race from Russell. I don't really know what the fuck happened to the guy. It seemed to be he was a little bit lost, during the race. I don't know really.
Well,
Sorry.
he got held up
Yeah,
by Piastri very badly and got overtaken by
yeah,
3 guys in that down the next straight. So I think that really kind of compromised his race early on. Plus, but to
yeah.
come back to 6th, I thought was actually pretty decent of him.
It was decent. It was just that. So the result was okay. It was good actually. 6th place is nothing to be to dismiss, but it's just that it seemed to be just made whatever he was supposed to be making, and that was it. No fancy. I mean, I would have expect a little bit more from him, especially from that track. It's a really driver's track. So, well, anyway.
Hmm.
Um, by the way, Lewis Hamilton at the last lap, he just changed the tires and got the fastest lap, which belonged
Verstappen.
to Max Verstappen. Yeah, just to spite him, because he really there was really no point in him,
I
getting
like
the fastest lap.
somebody. I think it was AlphaTauri. One of the AlphaTauri team said, "Yeah, that really robbed the crowd of a possible fight for the podium against Leclerc right at the end." And it was
Yeah.
a bit of an underhanded thing to do to take that away from the crowd's enjoyment, And I was like, really?
What the
Like,
fuck,
really?
really? Holy
Nice.
shit!
you know?
Holy. Yeah. I mean, other than that, nothing really to. There was nothing else I can think uh, about the race.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
kind
there is
of
a
a
couple
dull
of things,
race.
but we'll pass it over to
Mm.
Lucky, not an expert, to just say how did the race go for you, and is there anything else you want to mention?
I think you guys have covered most things. We'll start, of course, with my man, Logan Sargent. I'm not sure if that was Belgian or French accent,
Yeah,
but
le reportage à Sergent Lagon de Légrande.
anyway, it was a better weekend than normal for Mr. Sargent.
Still
Uh,
finished last though, didn't he?
no, he didn't.
Didn't he?
How dare you disparage Logan's performance with such an accusation? In, in qualifying, in real qualifying, he was 18th. In the shootout qualifying, he was 13th. In the race itself, sprint race, he dropped down to 16th by the end, and it was 17th in the race. So
Good.
He wasn't last, but he was getting there. He gave a
Oh
good
yeah,
try,
no, a couple of people dropped out. He did beat Sainz
and Piastri as well, of course.
and Piastri. Yeah, he beat
Yeah.
those two. Yeah,
So there was one other person on the track who I think was Hulkenberg.
and Hulkenberg. Yeah,
That he
who
managed
also had a lot of struggles. Yeah,
well, indeed. He gave a good shot though, but still managed to finish 17th.
yeah.
He'll
Well
try
done.
harder next time.
Mm. Yeah.
So
He's going to
anyway,
be sacked. He's going to be sacked. Anyway, carry on.
that's a possibility. I'm thinking as well.
Yeah.
Anyway, that
Yep.
was the Saint-Jean weekend.
Okay.
We'll talk first about the.
Oh, can I just mention a quick rumor I heard on my unofficial grapevine,
Okay.
which is he's been considered as a possible replacement for Sergio Perez. There you go. Christian Horner says he'll probably do better.
I could probably be considered a substitute for Perez, to be honest with you, the way things are going. But we'll come to that. We'll come to that just in a second. First corner accident, you had Sainz out of control and Piastri not having the good sense to think, shit, that guy's out of control, I'm going to hang back. He just went for that gap, and I don't really think it was going to happen from any point of view, to be honest. So I'm putting the blame firmly on Piastri. However, where's the penalties? Wasn't even investigated, that incident. Why was that? They're normally quick to get the penalty book out and start writing people's names in it, but on this occasion, there wasn't even an investigation.
Yeah, disappointing. I'd like to have seen his wrist slapped, even at like for a nominal point, just to say, look, you're a rookie. This is Spa. With all the problems that have happened, I'm thinking, remember Grosjean. With all the problems that have happened at this circuit of people going down the inside and wiping out half the field,
They're probably giving him a penalty on the next race. I mean, the reason they didn't give him any. Well, no, the reason they didn't give him any penalty was because he just made 1, 2, 3 corners after that, and then he had to stop. So I mean,
yeah, of course,
What are you going to give him? 5 seconds? Yeah. Okay, come on.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know. They can dock him 3 places on the grid next Grand Prix, of course.
Yeah. That's what I meant. They'll probably do something for the next race.
Oh, I see. Yeah. No, good point. Yeah. Maybe.
Well,
okay.
Let's say this: the only thing consistent about the penalty system seems to be its inconsistency.
Yeah, that's Formula One.
And leave it
to Formula One.
Yeah. But let's forget all the rest of the stuff that went on and summarize things like this. Verstappen finished the end of the first lap in 4th place. By the 10th lap, he'd passed Hamilton, he passed Leclerc, and was chasing after his teammate Perez. By lap 17, he was past Perez, and by the end of the race, he was 22 seconds ahead of Perez.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what is Perez thinking? Is he really this incompetent? Is it something else? Is he just demoralized with what's going on? Is he demoralized because his teammate's so much better? What's the deal?
He's out for seconds slower than Verstappen. That's it. This is what he's thinking. I mean, there's nothing else you can think about.
Yeah,
I'm out for seconds lower than Verstappen. That's it.
I've got to agree with you there. And I think if he survives another year at Red Bull, it will be time to start actually getting down and praying, because that would be a fucking miracle.
The problem is that Red Bull have got no drivers, which is fun to say, because Red Bull was the first one, to start like schooling, young people,
young driver program,
drivers, but they have nobody.
They certainly have the biggest program, that's for sure.
I mean, they've got I mean, they've got Lawson, and he's a decent driver.
Well, yeah,
He's
but
just
okay,
he's just
so
not he's not a decent Formula One driver. That's the
right,
problem.
yeah, okay. So let me rephrase that. They have got nobody ready right now
Mm,
for at
They
least
don't
two or
need a
3 years.
rookie.
They got nobody.
Yeah.
yeah.
Hamilton. Hamilton, if they could persuade Hamilton to join, I think that would be the
I think
only teammate
I
that would
think
give him a shot.
it's gonna be easier to see Hamilton in Ferrari than in Red Bull.
Yeah, I agree.
You know
And it
something?
maybe, and
I,
also it'd be easier to see Leclerc in Red Bull.
I would love to see Hamilton
No.
Ferrari, actually.
I strongly disagree with
Mm,
that. Red Bull, they have got Verstappen. Verstappen is Helmut's Helmut Marko's uh, pinnacle achievement.
mm,
That is everything he's been working for, and they got all their cards on Verstappen. They're
absolutely.
never going to put somebody there which is. I mean, they would need another. So the best, the ideal driver for Red Bull right now would be another Bottas. I mean, a faster
Yes,
one,
yes,
but
yes,
Bottas.
yes,
You know,
yes.
not even
Fucking
a Rosberg.
Perez. Mm.
Yeah, fuck it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, why not? They don't need the points. They're still going to win constructors every year with Verstappen doing this.
Yeah.
So they don't need the points. And if they get in next year, they can just swap him halfway through the season if they do need the points. Right?
I
Why
mean,
not?
to
Because
to be
they,
fair, with that car, they don't even need a second driver. They're gonna win
mm,
the manufacturers championship
sure.
with Verstappen alone. You know,
This year, yeah.
they don't need Perez point for anything right now.
This year, I'm just saying for next year, if there is
Yeah,
more competition and they get halfway through the year, they can still swap the driver if they find they are going to need the points for a better driver to try and get up there, right? And
listen,
they'll still get all the constructors' points they want. Plus, there'll be no competition against Verstappen. So either way, they win, right? They just
yeah.
win. And I tell you, I want to just say this last thing because
Hmm.
this is a funny one for me, which is to say, I can't think of a better driver for Helmut Marko to champion and find than Max Verstappen. Because they're as bad as each other when it comes to fucking being twats.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, but so the thing is that with the current balance in F1, where the closest car is like 8/10 of a second per lap slower on average, right? Uh, I think they're okay with Perez
Yeah,
as long
absolutely.
as long as he keep getting second. It
Mm,
doesn't really matter if he gets 20 seconds after Verstappen or 25 or 28. He's
yeah,
got to be second or third every time. It's fine with them. They got no problems whatsoever
yeah,
of winning both championship. It is obviously a driver which cannot give any headache to Max Verstappen. So
yep,
they would never find themselves in a position like Toto Wolff with Hamilton and Rosberg. You know,
mm,
they're fine. They're totally fine. The only thing which might get in the way is if one of the teams, I would say either Mercedes or Ferrari. I will discard Aston for reasons. They just make a big improvement, which, by the way, and then shut up. It's not something which can't happen, especially with those cars.
mm.
And I've got some informations about that. If you want, I can discuss it really briefly, but or
Yeah.
if you
We'll get to it after Lucky's finish because
yes
there's one other thing I want to talk to Marianne. But do remember it because I do want to come back
yes.
to that.
Hmm.
Okay, Lucky, go ahead.
Well,
I, I,
there's no.
I'd like you to talk about one thing, if you wouldn't mind, which is there was a brief period of rain, at least not rain as such, but a shower. And during that period, Norris car started to come alive, of course, as everybody else's fell off. So can you just talk about that little period?
Well, I'm not sure because I believe he was on a funny pit stop strategy. Everybody else went soft, medium, soft, whereas he went medium, hard, medium. So whether it's something to do with that, I don't know. But
Right.
I didn't really. Maybe it was just me and missed this, but I didn't see really a point where his car seemed to come alive. It seemed to get worse when they put him out on the hard tires, and he improved again when he went back onto the the mediums. But I'm not sure that there was a point where he was doing any better than anyone else.
Yeah, no, he had a fantastic overtake round the corner before Anthony Nodes. I mean, no name. What's that called?
Pouon.
Pouon. So he overtook
Yep,
somebody round the outside of Pouon.
he didn't. He did indeed, but
And that's because there was a sprinkling of rain, and so because of all of his downforce, he came out.
he may have just been a bit braver than the guy he was going past. Wasn't anybody that was that great anyway that he went past, was it? It was one of the midfield.
Yeah, no, I think it was Stroll or someone like that, wasn't it?
Well, that explains everything, doesn't it?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm just saying though that I think that explains why he was slightly higher up than I would have expected, because there was this brief period where he had the right car for the right conditions.
What you need to remember, he's British, and we spend half our time racing in the rain, so
that's true. That's true.
That might have been it.
Well, no, I think it was he had the downforce. I mean, I seriously do. He's that, and yeah. Anyway, I think it's because he had the downforce, and so like he was overtaking around the outside of people and inside of No Name and all of this kind of stuff. He was lining people up without really seeming to struggle too much. So again, I think that's why he came seventh, because he could finally get his car going a little bit, and he made all of the distance up then. And I think it was tricky conditions for the rest till the end. So his car wasn't at quite such a disadvantage.
I may disagree with you slightly and say that I put it down to bravery rather than anything else.
Okay.
Because he's definitely got some talent, that Norris lad. It just needs to be in the right place, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So thank you for that. Let's go to the.
Can I quickly just mention what Bob mentioned? The way Verstappen went past Hamilton and Leclerc and Perez, it was quite embarrassing, wasn't it? I mean, he just breezed past them. And only Leclerc put up any kind of fight. But the other guys, I mean, they moved half-heartedly across the road, but they knew what was coming.
Oh, of course, that car is so much faster with the DRS open.
He absolutely breezed past.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
maybe bad for. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying that's about as much race as we can talk about.
Okay, thank you. So you were just talking. Bub's talking about who to replace, and maybe bad for to put Leclerc in, or say a Russell. Or even a Piastri to some degree for Red Bull, but good for drama. Two great drivers battling it out, which kind of reminds me of Rosberg, the Rosberg years, right, where the FIA and the media, whatever the company that own F1, had said to Mercedes, "No, we're either going to restrict your car, or you're going to let your two drivers go at it hammer and tongs for the sake of the show." Where's that? Where's that this year?
No,
obviously it wouldn't make any difference anyway. But there you go. It just goes to show the difference in attitude. Red Bull much more ruthless. They're only interested in promoting their drink more than anything else, right? So, which is fair enough. Okay. So yeah, now we're going to general discussion. What did you think about that slightly wet bit in the middle of the race and Norris's performance through that? Because I thought he suddenly got a lot better in that little patch. He was
Well,
overtaking people as opposed to not overtaking people and being overtaken.
well, it was in the second sector, from
Mm.
the I think
Yep.
it was from the Rivage to Stavelot, and that was this also the sector where he had so it's the only downforce sector, and he had the
Yes.
car for that sector. So
Yeah.
I'm not really surprised. That was basically the only place where he could do something, because he had the car which had
Good point.
almost the right setup for the situation, and it definitely had the right downforce for the situation. So it was either in that sector where he could try to do something, or
Mm.
nowhere else, literally
Yeah.
nowhere
Yeah.
else.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fair. That's a fair comment. Okay, that's great. Anything overall you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, I was saying before about the some technical point of view, and so there is one thing to consider with these cars. There are 2 years in those rules, and I've read some rumors of some engineers. The thing is that with these cars at this point of the rules, usually when you improve a car, you find we've been used to a car being improved by a tenth of a second, half a tenth of a second, but because it was a rule book which has been written for many years, and basically all the cars got to a level of development where that was it. It was just where they were.
Mm.
With this kind of rule, sorry, uh, I don't think it might be unheard of finding improvements, and some engineers actually did very drastic improvements. I'm talking about 8 tenths of a second, 9 tenths of a second in improvement of the car, because there are so many areas to
Oh,
explore right now that finding that kind of improvement, it is actually feasible. And that brings back to what we were talking about before, that it's all fine and dandy for Red Bull right now because the competition is so far ahead. The
mm.
thing is that it's a very different situation than the one at the end of the Mercedes era, where you couldn't
Yeah.
possibly catch up. You could catch up really easily and really fast if you just had the right concept and the right idea, and the simulation applies to the real world, which seems to be one of the major problems right now.
Yeah. No, I don't think you're wrong. Also, I think it's the major improvement is because it's floor. I think one of the problems that the other teams have got is chassis design, and having to change the floor kind of means having to redesign the chassis in some ways. And I think that that's a huge cost, which under this cost cap it just can't be afforded. So I think
Yeah.
it's really hard to try to
uh,
upgrade the concept of the car rather than just change a few aero devices on it.
so this is where I'm not really sure I agree with you. I mean, I understand your point, but so let me make a quick example. What happened with McLaren from the beginning of the year up to Silverstone. When they said the car is shit, you're gonna see that in Silverstone, and actually in Silverstone, it seems to be that the car it is different. Forget about Spa. That was a setup. Mismatch. But the car seems to be really, really competitive.
Mm.
What they did with the McLaren, and it was really, really interesting and really boring, because unless you're really into technical stuff, they didn't really change chassis or suspension
Mm.
schemes,
Yep. Yep.
disposition, or even the floor was not changed too much. What they it's Rumors are that the biggest improvement was from the shape of the side pods, which is something that has not been looked into a lot by many. I mean, they're all getting in the Red Bull, way of thinking.
Yeah, yeah.
But it seems to be, and I read an interview from Andrea Stella, the head engineer in McLaren, and said, listen, the side pods are something that people are not really either taking care of, or if they say they're not important, they're lying, because apparently the shape of the side pods and the fact that you have an outwash instead of an inwash of the air, it is crucial in how the floor works. Basically, what happens is that if you shape the side pods in a very specific way, according to the floor that you have, you can basically seal the floor. So instead of having the skirts like in the wing cars, in
Yeah.
the 80s and 90s, you achieve the same result uh, but by shaping the air on the side posts, making that go down so that they actually seal the floor.
Mm.
And that is a very interesting concept.
Mm.
And again, you can see that how it is something that only 2 years into the new rules, the signposts are not exactly the same by all the cars. So I think that is an area where there's going to be a lot of improvement, and it can be an improvement that if you get it right, you're going to get 8 tenths of a second, like bang, like that.
Mm.
You can turn a McLaren from being shit to
Yeah.
from getting 17 to getting second.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I thought myself that it was to do with isolating the outwash. I say outwash, the inwash from the rear wheels, which disrupts the diffuser, right? The same way it was in 2009, I think,
Mm, mm,
with the Brawn, right? The Brawn did that incredibly well. So I thought that was where McLaren were getting this huge upgrade from. So let me just read this. With 100% battery, electric is growing fast for normal cars. Hybrid and not so futuristic anymore. F1 will not go 100% electric, so I hope F1 will go 100% nice and do with it. Yeah, maybe. Screaming hysterical motors and super loud. Yeah, I mean, Eddie Jordan was on a podcast this week saying that's what he misses from his time in Formula One. I don't think it's going that way. Uh, like they
well,
are
actually,
arguing
Well,
right now because the
there's some
rules
new
are. Hang on.
there's new
The
rules
rules
for
are.
2020.
Hang on. The rules are to go 50%, 50 electric, 50 ICE. But the teams are now trying to push back and saying, well, we don't need 50-50. Max Verstappen has already said some pretty critical things about it, which seem to be bullshit. But nonetheless, they're trying to get that repealed now to what 60 or 70%, they reckon. So go ahead.
actually, Stefano Domenicali, which is, he has shown, that is not, an idiot. He said something interesting, I think, a couple of weeks ago, and he said what F1 should really go for is developing synthetic fuels, non-carbon based fuel, and go with pure ICE engines, but using synthetic fuels. Which it might be. I think it's an interesting approach.
Yeah, that seems to be what they're looking for. Is no fossil fuels being used
Yes.
in the engines, and I believe that there's
Yeah.
new regulations for 2026 as far as the power plants are
Mm.
going to be, but I'm not sure exactly what they
So
are.
yeah. Well, I mean, no, I'm just saying that because just to point out that, I mean, right now, it is not that that thing is written in stone.
No,
There are
no, no.
voices,
No,
There-
nothing.
There's well, officially it's 50-50. That's what they've told the manufacturers that are coming in, right? That's what attracted the manufacturers in the first place. All the
Yeah.
manufacturers agreed to it. So officially, It's 50% electric, 50% ICE with renewable fuel or renewably bioethical fuel, whatever they want to call it, right? And they've already started trying to introduce that, right? So it's now something like 10%, isn't it? Sustainable fuel or something like that.
Yeah.
Synthetic fuel, as you're saying, Fabio, but they were going to increase that to something like 30% or something. And so it's going to be difficult for them to roll that back, right? Because the teams are going to have to say to the engine manufacturers, no, we don't want the 50-50 that you all agreed, right? Audi coming in as a new partner, Ford getting interested. Well, they already they have a huge electric involvement. So it's going to be a war. It's going to be a war, and that's why Red Bull already are whinging the fuck out of the new regulations coming up and saying, well, we don't want the engine manufacturing. We don't want to become an engine manufacturing Formula, right? We want it to be car Formula still, right? Where we have all of the intellectual property, which makes the difference, not the engine manufacturers. So that will be interesting to see how that comes. Yeah, bring back ear protectors for the F1 public. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I went to Silverstone in probably, well, I don't know, Barrichello. What was Barrichello driving? Like a white car.
I've been
What
a
year
Ford
was that?
Stewart.
Was it
It was a
Stewart?
white car.
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
Stewart.
could have been.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could have been. Yeah.
Wow.
I think so. And my God, these things! I remember standing at the at bridge as they go past at 160, and you're like 7 feet, 8 feet away from the cars. And I remember standing there with the girl, and every time they went by, she almost had an orgasm. It was fantastic. Okay.
To be fair, for once on the FIA, they are kind of caught between a rock and a hard place with the one for climate change prevention, and then what the teams want. You know, they've got to kind of show some sort of interest in climate change, or they'll be accused of being unsympathetic. So they've got to try and at least make an effort to look like they're wanting to do something as far as power plants are concerned.
Yeah, well, they've already made agreements with the engine manufacturers.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's too late. It's already too late, right? Because
Yeah.
like the engine manufacturers have the whipping hand, right? I mean, what happens if Audi, Renault, and
Yeah.
whoever the Honda, whatever the Honda is at the time, just to say, well, actually now you've gone back to ICE, well, that's no longer relevant for our production range, so we're leaving. Bye.
Yeah,
You know?
that scenario, the rules where they really have to be long term in order for a manufacturer to step in with an engine. You know, it's a long term project and all that stuff. So that really needs to be, you know, really precise, and it's got to be long term. But yeah,
Yeah. So we're talking after the next set of
yes,
the agreements finish, which they start in 2026. I think they go on to something quite ridiculous, like it's 32 or something like that, 2032, before they next get looked at. So you know, it's a long time. It's a fair old time. But anyway, there you go. Okay, that was the Spa Francorchamps. I fear, gentlemen, we are not going to have that many more races at Spa. I do fear this. I think it's going to go by the wayside. Simply because of all of the problems with wet weather. They've been testing new hubcaps. The hubcaps, is that the right word I'm looking for?
yeah,
It
you're
is.
talking about like rain protectors.
Yeah,
So-
FIA
yeah.
putting hubcaps on Formula One cars.
Of
Fucking
to prevent spray
stupid
from the back.
twats.
Yeah,
Yes.
they tried that in
It-
Silverstone, and apparently it was shit.
Yes. Yeah. Even they said it was shit. Mainly
Yeah.
because it worked for the wheels, but then of course since then they've gone and put double diffusers on all the cars, so that kind of completely negates the rain like getting dispersed by the wheels like it used to. But anyway, there you
I mean,
go.
the
So
thing is, tires are designed to get rid of as much water as possible, and the amount
Oh
that they
yeah,
actually pump is huge. Um,
yeah,
yeah, it's insane.
it's got to
it
go
is.
somewhere.
Mm,
You can't just get rid of it. It's got to go somewhere, and it goes behind the car.
yes,
They
yeah,
can.
absolutely.
I think that they can empty a pool, an Olympic pool, in something like 10 seconds or stuff like that.
Jeez.
Yeah,
Um,
It's a
yeah,
huge
I mean,
amount of
it's
water.
however much, 40 liters a second or something like that. It's
yeah. I
ridiculous
mean, which
amount.
is a lot. Like
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
it's a lot.
So yeah. Anyway, mainly because of the high revs of the wheels, of course. I mean, that's the thing. Okay,
Oh yeah,
so
yeah.
those Bob says those bring back ear protectors. Oh, and it hasn't come up yet. Sorry, there it is. Those hubcaps could be directly to spray the water away from the track. Direct. Yes, they could be. Yes, you're right. Actually, that would help as well. But there's still going to be too much spray from the rear diffuser anyway.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
and also it's not like it's a snow plower, you know, that the first car just sprays away. If you got two cars side by side, I mean, one
Yeah.
car is going to
There you
spray
go.
on the other car, so it's not really like. I mean,
I think there
You
was
can
an effect.
imagine. You can imagine Max just pulling alongside a hated
oh yeah,
rival
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
just
yeah.
staying there with his rear
It's
wheels
like,
right at the
yeah,
driver's.
remember,
I mean, if right now the Red Bull overtakes you, when it overtakes you, it's gonna be 40 liters a second just splash into the side. I mean, they're gonna fucking destroy the cars.
Yeah, maybe, maybe. Okay,
remember
that's great.
the chariot race in Ben Hur when they had the chariot
Yeah,
with the big blade sticking out the side of it.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, exactly, exactly. Nice, nice. Okay, so I fear for Spa anyway, but there we go. And I really do fear because I've always loved Spa. Uh, on
I'm
the
optimistic
driving
about
games,
Spa.
it's
But
on the driving games. It's just one of my favourite circuits to drive, just because it's got like so many high speed corners and straights which you have to really be precise on. And so,
no,
but anyway, there you go.
I'm an optimist about Spa. Yeah,
Okay.
the only thing they got to do is they got to kill Tsunoda, which I think he proposed to put a chicane before the Eau Rouge and Radillon thing.
I mean, we've tried it. It's been tried. It's been
Yeah,
done.
Yeah.
yeah, but
It's
yeah,
not. It's not sensible.
no.
And anyway, that is a Rouge's Spa. So you get rid of that, you may
Yeah.
as well not bother driving there, as far as I'm concerned.
Rouge and up to Radio, and that's the place. As Max Verstappen nearly found out, by the way, during the race, he had
Yes,
a bit of a twitch going up the hill there.
he did. Yeah, well held, Max. Yeah,
Yeah.
many lesser drivers would have lost it. So many lesser drivers have lost it.
Okay, so
Exactly that.
are we going?
We
Are we
are
going
going
to
to
the
do.
quiz?
We are going to the quiz. So we've
Sorry,
got.
before going to the quiz,
Yes.
one small thing, and I'll be super brief
Okay.
because that's been the talk of the weekend. You know, the exchange between Lambiase and Verstappen. You know,
Oh
the
yes, yes,
Yes.
yeah,
please.
that thing. I think it's so. I got two thoughts about that. First one, I think it's mostly bullshit, right? In my experience, something like that, nobody would have said anything like that. I mean, just imagine Ross Brown talking like that to Alain Prost or Michael Schumacher. That I mean, you don't see that happening. You don't see.
Mm.
On the other end, there is something to be said about the relationship between Lambiase and Verstappen. It's a little bit different from any other relation that we have in F1, and I include Lewis Hamilton and Bono too.
Yeah.
Lambiase and Verstappen, they grew together. They literally grew together. They've always been a team. So I think that a lot of what we hear, well, first of all, the F1 just shows whatever they want to show. So I'm not surprised about that. But also the level of bashery that they have between each other has to be understood by the fact that they've been together for ages.
Yeah.
So it's really unfair to compare that to whatever Lewis said with Bono or Michael with Ross Brown or Mazzola, whatever the engineers were at the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is a totally different situation. Regardless, I think it was mostly show. It's a Netflix thing. So
Yeah. I'm just going to share that, if I may, quickly, Fabio.
yes.
If you wouldn't mind, I'm just waiting for it to go around. Okay.
While you talk,
Okay.
while you
Hang on. Hang
find
on.
it.
Hang on.
Okay. Okay. Oh.
Like I said,
That you are through, Max.
yeah, I don't give a they live on V10. Execution.
Okay, and then when the track was 2 seconds quicker for your final lap, you didn't have any energy left. How would that have come down? But you tell me what you want to do in Q3 and we'll do it. Let me know. Sets, fuel, run plan.
Kevin Magnussen, how did you see that?
There we go. There we go. Yep.
Yeah, and then he apologized, and then during the race he said, "Oh, I mean, you should use your head a little bit more, because apparently he made an outlap with the tires. He just ruined them a little bit." And Lambiasi told Verstappen, "You should use your head a little bit more." That to me was way more. I was way more surprised by that rather
Yeah.
than the exchange that we saw, which was way more picturesque. I mean, and a race engineer telling Max Verstappen, use your head a little bit more. Just think about if Bono would have said that to Lewis. No way.
Yeah.
Could
Yeah.
Ross Brown or Mazzola would have said that to Michael Schumacher or Alain Prost? No fucking way. But again, it's a different dynamic with those two.
Well,
So
Max is a completely different type of driver. He's not a Alonso type, inverted commas Alonso type, who can think outside of his car. Right? Max is sitting in his car and he's fully engaged in just driving it 100%. Same way Michael Schumacher used to do in his early days. Michael
yeah,
obviously had the ability to do the same thing as Alonso and actually think of the whole race while he was in the middle of it. So
yes, yeah,
there you go.
yeah. I think
Also, there was one other thing which I want to highlight.
yes,
The Dutch can talk direct. Yeah, no, that is true. Yeah, the Dutch are a little more German in that way. They will just take it and go, yeah, fair enough. We used to, yes, Bob. I take it. I really take that as a good point. But
Christian Horner,
before you go, just one thing. Which is to say, there was one other little incident on the radio this weekend, which was Max being told to keep his tires,
yes,
right, and he was told to use his head, exactly like you're saying, and the response came back, right. Yeah, but is Perez doing it? Is Perez being told to do the same? Right? And Pianzi, this time, Lamberti said, trust me, Max. Right? Look after
yeah,
your tyres. Use your head, look after your tyres. Max questioned it, right? And then he said, I'm not going to tell you. Just get on with what I fucking say and don't
yes,
fucking question it.
right,
Right?
right,
Because last time
right.
you did it, it just was stupid, right? This time, and I'm paraphrasing all of this, this
Yeah, yeah,
time
yeah.
we're not having that shit. If I tell you something to do, I've got your best interest at heart. Don't fucking don't question me. So yeah, there was something else there this weekend, which was Lamberti putting his foot down to Max and saying, "You do what I say. I'm the race engineer. He is the chief engineer as well for the team. Okay, so it's not like he's got like Perez's stuff covered as well. If he wants, he can tell Perez's chief race engineer to do something, and he'll have to do it as well, right? So and as we know, Perez had been told to look after his tires. Max still ignored it. He still caught up to him in about 3 laps.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, Max is Max is Max anyway. It doesn't matter what their relationship is. They'll argue the shit later. But anyway, there we go. Sorry, I talked over you a little bit there, Lucky. Sorry about that.
no, that's not a problem. Not a problem. I was
Go
just
ahead.
going to say very briefly. Christian Horner, when questioned about this, described the two of them as being like an old married couple.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So take from that what you will.
Yeah. Well, I take from that they fuck each other
Yeah.
on a regular basis.
Yeah, they're gay. Yeah, there you
Mm.
go. So we're gonna
Okay.
start the quiz, if I'm not
Yes.
wrong.
No, you're not
Uh,
wrong.
okay, I'm gonna grab a beer real quick. I can still
Okay.
hear you, so yeah. So you guys
Okay.
carry on.
We'll go myth for a start, and this
Okay.
one will be close to your heart, Fabio. We're going to talk about the Ferrari gearbox problems of 1989, which weren't
89.
actually gearbox problems. If you remember, John
Mm.
Barnard joined Ferrari in 1987,
Hmm.
and in 1989 introduced the first semi-automatic electrically controlled gearbox in Formula One.
That that is wrong, but carry on.
What's wrong? What's wrong?
What you just said, it's
Yeah,
wrong, but
we've
carry
we've
on.
actually
What's
talked
wrong?
about
What's
this
wrong?
very we've actually talked about this
Yeah,
very incident before. But
yeah.
carry on. Just
What's
carry on.
wrong?
Get through it, and then we'll talk about it
Get through
at
it.
the
Yeah,
end.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so famously, the '89 Brazilian Grand Prix, which is the opener of that year's championship, Nigel Mansell had reportedly booked an early flight home from the race because he didn't think the car was going to last the distance. Because during testing with this gearbox, they had lots and lots of problems. However, Mansell actually went on to win that race, which was probably the only good thing that happened that year for him and Ferrari. However, we'll go on to talk about the gearbox and why the gearbox didn't actually work. People thought it was a gearbox problem. It wasn't a gearbox problem. It was an electrical problem. Now, why was there an electrical problem? Well, according to John Barnard, the alternator pulley was manufactured to be in line, obviously, with the crankshaft pulley of the engine. This wasn't the case. There was a small manufacturing difference, which was causing the alternator drive belt to either break or throw itself off the pulleys, which resulted in a flat battery, which caused the first thing to stop, the gearbox. There would still be enough energy in the battery to keep the engine running, but not enough energy to work the gear shift. Therefore, everybody thought, well, the engine's running, but it won't go in and out of gear. It must be a gearbox problem. But it wasn't a gearbox problem. According to uh, the engineer himself, it was a problem with aligning the two pulleys on the engine and the alternator. Now, Fabio is obviously waiting to tell me I'm wrong about this, but let's go.
No, I mean, so the reason I told. Okay, so let me start from the beginning. The reason I told you wrong is because uh, that wasn't the first time that Ferrari made experiment with an automatic gearbox. The first version of it was actually made by Mauro Forghieri, and it was tested by Gilles Villeneuve in Fiorano.
As
And
that
Gilles
would be in
Villeneuve,
the early 80s, yeah?
yeah. So Gilles Villeneuve, made a great time, but he wasn't really confident about the old setup, and he said, I'd rather not use it, and Forghieri and Ferrari said, listen, if you're not comfortable with that, you're not going to use it, and that's it. Now the funny thing is that when Barnard came to Ferrari and put the gearbox, uh, so first of all he reused a lot of parts that were designed and built by Forghieri for the car, for
Okay.
Gilles Villeneuve car. The other super interesting thing is that one of the persons, I can't remember the name, but one of the person which actually worked on the gearbox was an Italian engineer, which worked on the original version, from Forghieri and Villeneuve. And actually, I mean, this is Forghieri worked, and he's dead. And he was like, how much I cherish the guy. So I have no problems in I kind of trust the guy. And he actually said in an interview that this engineer, he actually came back, asked some things to Forghieri because there was some, some things, to fix up, and he gave some hints, not solution. He said, "Well, you should look into this one because I remember that wasn't working, and I wanted to do it, another way." So that's why I said it's wrong. Uh, I'm really suspicious about the explanation of John Barnard, mostly because so I can see that. Uh, so it's really weird, I mean, if the battery goes flat, the first thing which doesn't work is either the is both the spark plugs, the rail system for the fuel injectors, and the gearbox. So it might be the case that the gearbox takes a little bit more volts than the other systems, but it wouldn't mean that you get stuck in gear, but the engine still works. You know what I
Well,
mean?
I think
So
maybe with all three, all things combined, you could have the engine running and the fuel injection running, but not enough to power the gearbox change.
there were
Um,
there were basically actuators. It was
yeah,
really
that's right.
crude at the time. Now, what I'm saying is that, let's say for a second, and I don't know, I haven't got the schematics. I don't know nothing about that, but let's say for a second that those actuators, they require more volts than the rail system and the spark plugs. Okay, so if the voltage drops down, let's say you know below a certain point, that is the first thing which doesn't work. Cool, I'm fine with that. What I'm expecting to happen is that you get a car which can't change gear but still runs. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um, okay,
I understand what you're saying.
okay. Let me just get in here as well, if I may, because
Mm-hmm.
we do need to, move it on. But okay, so this was the famous year, was it not? That Barnard said that he wouldn't move to Italy, and he
Yes.
was in fact designing the car from England,
That's correct. Yeah.
whereas the rest of the car was designed in Italy. In fact, there were two cars designed that year: Barnard's car, and then the other engineer, which would have had Barnard's job had Barnard not been employed. So I think there was probably some difference between Barnard's explanations and not wishing at the time
Yeah.
to throw his job under the bus, so to speak. So I think
Yeah.
there's probably quite a lot of politics. I'm not saying,
Yes.
this is to do with Ferrari particularly, but I am saying it's to do with Ferrari particularly. A lot of politics.
Well, at the time, but I mean, the most politic of all of them was actually, I mean, if there's somebody to point the finger, I would say it's Barnard. I mean, Barnard, managed to get a fantastic contract. He basically had a racing team built in England with everything,
Oh,
because
he
he
did.
didn't want to move. And if
He
I'm
got the
not
best
wrong, I
deal
think,
ever.
yeah, I think, yeah, and I think that structure, I don't know if it later became some other team. I can't really put my hand on my finger on it, but it was used either by Barney. I mean,
For
that actually
Lola,
became
maybe.
something else, so because it was a
Dave, you're
full
right.
fledged.
I'm desperately. It's one of the backmarker teams. It was like Marussia or somebody like that took over.
Oh,
Yeah,
I think it's a bit early, but it was
Yeah, it was earlier
Minardi.
than that. It was that
No,
kind
Lula. I
of
think it was
team.
Lola actually, which later
yeah.
became.
Lola is more probable than
Yeah.
Mm.
than,
But
than
I'm not
Minardi.
certain either. But also, I'd also say one other thing quickly about this, which is that was the year that made Mansell, not as a driver, but as an
Yes,
extremely wealthy man,
yes,
because he was
yes,
signed for a long-term contract by Ferrari to be the
Number
number
one.
one driver, and the following year they employed Prost to be the number one driver,
yes, yeah,
which gave Mansell a hell of a lot of, let's say, bargaining power when it came to renegotiating the contract. And of course, as we know, he then chose to have a Ferrari dealership on the Isle of Man.
Yes. Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, I wasn't really sure about that. Yeah, but I remember that too. Yeah.
So, and that's what made him a very wealthy man.
Yeah.
There's a story from Alan Prost about his time with Mansell, and he basically said, here was everybody at the factory trying their hardest, including Prost, to get a working car that's going to win a championship. Whereas Mansell would come along, do half a dozen laps, set a time, and then fuck off to the golf course. And that was Mansell's apparent time at all teams, not just Ferrari.
Yeah, I think he was used to the British way of doing things, which is the engineers give him a car, he goes and races it till it falls apart.
Well, David Coulthard, funnily enough, said the same thing when he was Mansell's test driver. He said that Mansell would come along, set a dozen laps or so, and then he'd disappear to the golf course, leaving Coulthard as the test driver to try and make improvements. And then he would come back after he had his golf and have another go at it. So his commitment level on a team sort of basis didn't seem to be as teammate as some other drivers would be.
Yeah, for sure. I think you have to give, one of the things about Mansell's time at Formula One was, or through the years that Mansell was racing, I should say, was of course that I think it was probably the most and the quickest amount of change year on year for Formula One cars and the design of Formula One cars. And so as a result, I don't think the drivers were even capable of giving feedback other than saying, yeah, I can drive this car a half second faster, and that was it, really. Maybe they could do setup and stuff, work with the cars, but they couldn't really tell you about the improvements in the cars other than a general, yeah, feels good. Yeah, that's better, So again, it's a highly technical period of Formula One that he was involved in.
Yeah, they also had, different approach. Right now they're a little bit more standardized, but Alain Prost was famous for not giving a fuck, in testing, for example. He just didn't push the car, and that drove everybody crazy, both in Ferrari and even Adrian Newey, said that, it was really frustrating because he said, no, I know what the car can do, I'm not going to push it. And they wanted him to push it in tests because, yeah, okay, you do, but we don't, so show us. Said, no, I can do that. So, different drivers, different, attitudes.
Yeah. Very true.
Different days to what
different days. 89, 90. That was a good looking. That was a really. I got to say the last thing. That was a really good looking Ferrari. That car. 1991. Oh my God. A V12 looked amazing. Sounded even better. Yeah. Anyway, there you go. Right. So on to the quiz, if we can then.
Okay, quiz. Are we going hard or easy today? What would you like?
We don't care. It's your choice.
Yeah.
Okay. Right, we'll go with hard in that case.
We got a whinge anyway, so.
It's true. It's true.
Well, that's part of the quiz, I think.
Okay, and remember, before we say anything, we'll give Bub a chance to get it. If you're still there, Bub.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. What I would like from you gentlemen this week is the names of 3 racetracks. Now, those 3 racetracks have the fastest average speed per lap. Okay? That's not time. We're talking highest
2 of them.
Average speed. Okay?
Ex racetracks or including current racetracks?
This would be today's calendar.
Okay.
So the fastest 3, doesn't matter which order you put them in, as long as they're in the top 3.
Okay, so can I just make
it's actual tracks.
Yeah. So can I make him? So if I could make a suggestion here, which is we both say 3 before Lucky says anything. Okay, and then we'll see who's closest or who's got it or not.
Okay.
Yeah, super.
Okay, would you like to go first, Fabio? Oh,
I'm
Bub,
thinking
Bub,
about.
Bub, you're here. Would you
Yeah,
just write in, and then when we
yeah. I'm
say,
waiting for Baba
just
because
yeah, hang
she's
on a
got
second,
it.
hang on. So, Bub, if you write them in chat before you press enter, okay? Okay, he's already done it. Never mind. Go ahead, Fabio. Shout them out.
I'm struggling with the third. I'm really struggling with the third.
There's two obvious ones that I'm sure you've both
Yeah,
got.
okay,
The
so
third one is a
it's
killer.
I would say Monza and Silverstone. You know, that is
Okay.
a given.
I'd say Silverstone is one of mine.
The third one, I'm really struggling with that. Oh, oh shit. Oh god. Okay. Oh. Ah. I can't remember the name. The Japanese one.
Suzuka.
Yeah, Suzuka. Sorry, I was going to say Motegi because this is where the
Yeah, that's wouldn't have been a bad shout.
Yeah,
So you're going with,
I'll try Suzuka.
Okay. I will
let's-
go. Yeah.
are you going? Let's just make sure we've got what he's going for. You've got Silverstone, Monza, and Suzuka. That's the three you want to go.
I'll try Suzuka. Believe it.
Okay. I'm going to be I'm going to be out there. Okay. I'm going to say obviously Silverstone because I believe it's over 160 miles an hour average. So that's 162 or something like that. So I think that's one. But I'm going to go the old Hockenheim ring.
Well, I said actual.
It's current tracks.
Oh, only current
current
tracks. Damn, I was
Yeah.
going to say
Current
Dijon. Okay, well in that case I would go. Oh shit. Well then it's got to be
Yeah.
Monza as well, I guess. And
Yeah.
current track.
I
I
was
think
struggling
maybe.
with Brazil.
No, I don't think so.
Wow.
It's a medium downforce. I'm thinking maybe the Red Bull ring, Spielberg, or
Le tre piste più veloci del campionato. Formula 1. Di meglio.
so.
Hold on a second.
Do you want to mute up? I'm trying to think. Thank you, mate. Okay, so I'm going to go definitely Silverstone.
Yeah.
I'm definitely no, Canada. It's not that. It's not that. Towards the end of the year. Oh! Actually, the Saudi Arabian track. That's got a high fastest one. So I'll go for those three just to be slightly different. Silverstone, Monza, and the Saudi track, whatever that's called.
The Bahrain?
No, Saudi, the Saudi track.
Oh,
Do you
the
mean
second
Jeddah, Corniche?
one, yeah.
Yes, yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Okay, so you're going with Silverstone, Monza, and Jeddah.
Yeah, Silverstone, Monza, Jeddah, yeah.
Okay, and has Bob given us an answer?
And Bob's gone Monza, Spa,
Baba is
Silverstone.
Monza, yeah.
Sorry, what did Bob go?
Monza,
See?
Spa, Silverstone. And what's your son giving us?
So my son is really my son said, for sure it's gonna be Baku and Jeddah.
Oh, okay, yeah, Baku. I hadn't thought of Baku.
Yeah, right?
Yeah,
Fuck.
maybe.
Yeah. I
Okay,
know.
well, we'll give him Silverstone as the last one. Does he want Silverstone as the last one?
He's gone. He just said
Oh,
Baku
okay.
and Jeddah for sure.
Okay, go ahead then.
And so it might either be because he said, Silverstone. Well, he didn't say Silverstone. Yeah, I think he said, Spa, Baku, and Jeddah, which is,
Spa,
I think he
Baku,
forgot
and Jeddah.
Monza, but yeah.
Okay, so go ahead then, Lucky. Let's hear the results.
Okay, you were actually, even when you went to the old tracks, you were actually on course because you went with Silverstone and the Red Bull Ring, which for a while competed as to which had the fastest Grand Prix lap. And if you
Mm-hmm.
remember, I think Keke Rosberg set a ridiculous qualifying pace one year at Silverstone and got Silverstone the record. But however, we're talking about today's tracks. Now, everybody went for Silverstone, which is one of the top three. So you all did really well there. Everybody
Okay.
went for Monza.
Yeah.
Okay. So you did really well there as well. The only one, or the first one, I should say, who went for the third track was Simos, and that was with Jeddah.
Oh, fuck.
And that was the third one, was it?
That was the third one. You got it, sir.
Whoa!
Wow.
You did.
Good
You
job.
did extremely well in getting
Good
that.
job.
From in reverse order, it's Silverstone at 156 miles per hour. Jeddah is 157 miles per hour, only 1 mile an hour difference. But the best track in the Formula One calendar, not only for speed but as a track itself, is Monza at 164 miles per hour.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
I was
but-
slightly wrong about the
but-
speeds, but I knew it was around 160.
Yeah. So your son also he went for Jeddah, did he?
He did,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Baku as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's going to get a point, and Simos is going to get a point, and you and Bob, well, you did well, but not quite as well as Simos. So he's
Okay.
getting the point,
And,
your
and what
son
does
gets the point as well.
and what does that make the points then?
That's the points. At the moment, you guys are 10 for Fabio, who had a long pit stop, and you're on 11, slightly ahead.
There you go.
And
Okay.
Bob, I think, is sitting somewhere around the 5 or 6 points.
He hasn't been here for all of them, so that's fair.
He has missed some rounds, of course, yes.
Yeah. Okay, and Fabio's typing, so we're going to let this one come out, and then I'm going to put it on the screen.
We're taking with bated breath.
Bob says, good idea.
Good idea. Yeah.
If somebody had suggested that, I would have certainly given them a point.
There you go. Okay, well, there we go. Fortunately, my crack says, fuck off.
Remember,
Sorry, I don't know why I put my crack on there, because that was actually my crack saying that. Go ahead.
This is the world of Formula One, and you need to be cutthroat to gain an advantage. So if you had mentioned that you would like to nominate your son for a point, you would have got it. But it's too late now.
Me, son. There we go. Fair enough. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for coming, Bub. It's really good to see you again. We're now on hiatus for 3 weeks or something like that, maybe. Is that
Thank
right?
fucking God. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It will be kind of nice, I guess. And when we're back, we're in Netherlands? Is that right? Bub?
Yeah, it's Zandvoort. Yeah, Zandvoort.
It is Zandvoort. Okay, so Zandvoort when we're back, and that will. I mean, who do we think is going to win that race, gentlemen?
Whoever's at the head of the procession,
Bottas.
that will be the race.
It's got.
Okay.
It's got to be Bottas. No
Yeah.
questions.
Fucking
4
Bottas.
weeks. Yeah, Fabio. Bub says 4 weeks. It's an eternity. Yes, it will
Yeah.
seem that
4
way
weeks.
once we get. It won't be for the first week, but a couple of weekends into it, we'll be going. Oh, there's no Formula One. Oh my God. So that's how that goes. But never mind. So thank you very much, gentlemen.
Hey,
Really,
I mean, there's still motorcycles to watch. So
there is still motorcycles. And also the. Oh no, they're on a break as well. I was going to say the ladies are racing as well. Okay, thank you very much, gentlemen.
The ladies,
Really appreciate
the
your
ladies.
company. Really appreciate your company. And we will. We'll see.
And
We'll
this
see
channel
you in-
is gone. The channel.